Let me tell you something. The world is full of patterns. You think you've seen it all. You think you've got the rhythm of the game figured out, that you can predict who's going to make the next big move and when. You think history is just going to keep following the same old script. And then, out of nowhere, something happens that rips the script to shreds. That's what Canada just did. Out of the blue, without hype or fanfare. They didn't just step into the arena. They moonwalked straight into the center, and the entire world stopped to watch. It wasn't just a move, it was a moment. A moment that felt like the opening beat of a song you've heard 1,000 times, but somehow this time, it hits you in the chest like you're hearing it for the very first time. Boom, instant silence. Every eye, every ear, every headline locked on them. You have to understand, in a world where every country is clawing for attention, it's almost impossible to surprise anyone anymore. Everyone's seen every trick. Every spotlight, every fireworks show, every diplomatic handshake, nothing feels fresh. But what Canada just pulled off was the kind of surprise that makes the air itself feel electric. No warning, no leaks, no build-up. Just an explosion of cultural energy that sent a ripple through every living room, every boardroom, and every news cycle across America. You could almost feel the shockwave travel. First confusion, then curiosity, and then that unmistakable realization they just changed the game. And the beauty of it. They didn't do it with threats, they didn't do it with military might, they didn't do it with politics. They did it with the universal language that bypasses borders, ideologies, and differences. They did it with music. With an icon. With a legacy that belongs to the hearts of millions. That's not just clever, it's masterful. Because when you strike at the cultural core, you're not just making noise, you're rewriting the emotional map. You're reminding people of memories, of moments, of feelings they thought belonged only to them, only to their country. And when you make them realize those feelings can be owned, reshaped, and represented by someone else, that's a whole different kind of power. I saw it in the reaction. America didn't know whether to applaud, to be proud, or to feel like someone had just outdanced them on their own stage. And that's the magic of the move. It's disarming, it's bold. It's like someone walking into your house, playing your favorite song better than you ever remembered it, and leaving you wondering how they pulled it off. That's what keeps people talking. That's what makes history. Because here's the truth. Moments like this don't come often. They're rare because they require the perfect blend of timing, symbolism, and execution. Too soon and people miss the significance. Too late and it feels stale. But when you hit it right in that sweet spot, when the world's attention is fractured and someone suddenly unites it with one decisive act, that's when the shockwave spreads far beyond the stage. That's when you stop conversations in cafes, pause debates in parliament, and make even your competitors lean in a little closer. And make no mistake, this wasn't an accident. It might have looked like a spontaneous burst of creativity. But trust me, this was planned with the precision of a surgeon. Every beat, every image, every note was designed to pierce straight through the noise and make people feel. Because when people feel, they remember. And when they remember, they talk. And when they talk, your message travels farther than any press release, any political statement, any carefully crafted speech. It's almost funny, isn't it? In a time when we're drowning in data, when leaders think the only way to make an impact is through policies, statistics, and numbers, Canada just reminded everyone that sometimes the most powerful move isn't to speak louder. It's to make the world listen differently. You don't need to outshout your rivals if you can outshine them. You don't need to fight for the microphone if you can make the moment itself the microphone. That's what they did. They made the moment bigger than the announcement, bigger than the politics, bigger than the rivalry. They didn't just play the song, they owned the silence that came before it, and the echo that came after. And that's why the shockwave is still rolling through America right now. Because deep down, everyone knows they just witnessed something that wasn't supposed to happen. Something that changed the temperature of the room. Something that made the rules feel just a little less fixed. And the most dangerous thing about a move like this, the thing that will keep leaders, strategists, and competitors awake at night, isn't just what Canada did, it's what they proved is possible. You see, people love to underestimate the power of entertainment. They think it's just for fun, just a distraction, something to pass the time. They forget that the stage has been a battlefield for centuries, that music, art, and culture have always been weapons in the right hands. And what Canada just pulled off wasn't some harmless tribute or random performance. It was a move loaded with precision, meaning, and intent. It was the kind of play that makes you think you're just enjoying the show, until you realize halfway through that you've been pulled into something bigger, something deliberate, something that leaves you questioning who really controls the narrative. That's the genius of it. They didn't come out waving a political banner. They didn't need to. They let the glitter, the choreography, and the music do the talking. Because when you wrap power inside entertainment, people drop their guard. They don't brace for impact, they lean in closer. They let the rhythm take over. And before they know it, they've absorbed the message. It's the oldest trick in the book, but only the masters can pull it off on this scale and make it look effortless. Think about it. Michael Jackson isn't just an artist, he's a symbol. A global icon with a legacy that transcends borders, generations, and even genres. By choosing him, Canada wasn't just entertaining, they were tapping into a shared emotional currency. They were reminding people of their first concert, their favorite song, that one dance move they tried to copy in their bedroom mirror. And while everyone was riding that wave of nostalgia, Canada was planting something deeper. The idea that culture doesn't have to stay locked in the place it was born. It can be claimed, reframed, and reintroduced from a completely different stage. And that's where the real power lies. America has always been the loudest voice when it comes to exporting culture, but this was Canada saying, we can take your icons, give them our spin, and send them back to you in a way that feels fresh, even better than you remembered. That's not just art, that's influence. That's shifting the center of gravity without firing a single shot. Because here's the truth, in today's world, culture is currency. It's not just what people consume, it's what shapes how they see themselves, how they connect with others, how they think about the past and imagine the future. Whoever owns the cultural conversation owns a piece of the global mind. And the most effective way to take that ownership, make your moves look like a gift, not a takeover. Make it feel like a celebration, not a challenge. That way, by the time people realize you've changed the story, it's already the new normal. What Canada did was more than a performance, it was a demonstration of soft power at its sharpest. They didn't just honor Michael Jackson, they recontextualized him, they put their own fingerprint on his legacy, and in doing so, they subtly reminded the world that influence isn't always about who did it first, it's about who does it last and best. And that's the part that sticks. It's like watching someone else take your favorite chess piece and use it to checkmate you. You don't even get angry. You just sit there stunned, wondering how you didn't see it coming. That's the emotional impact of a cultural power, play disguised as entertainment. It makes you question the ground you're standing on without ever feeling like you were pushed. And here's the real kicker. This isn't a one-time stunt. Moves like this are seeds. They get planted in the minds of the audience, in the pride of the nation watching, in the unease of the competitor who just got outmaneuvered. And over time, those seeds grow into something bigger. People start looking differently at who's leading the cultural conversation. They start expecting more from the so-called underdogs and realizing that the balance of influence is never as fixed as it seems. That's why it's so dangerous and so brilliant. While America was busy thinking they owned the rights to the story, Canada just showed they can borrow it, remix it, and send it back across the border as something new, something magnetic, something impossible to ignore. And the best part, everyone clapped. Everyone celebrated. Nobody walked away feeling like they'd lost anything, yet deep down something had shifted. And that is the mark of a true power play. You don't announce it. You don't fight for it. You wrap it in rhythm, in melody, in spectacle, and you let it unfold naturally. Because when it's over and the lights go down, you're not just remembered for the show. You're remembered for changing the game without anyone realizing the game had changed. Here's the thing. People talk about politics and they talk about pop culture, but they act like they live in two separate worlds. Like one is serious and the other is just for fun. But anyone who's been paying attention knows that's a fantasy. These two worlds have always been tangled together, influencing each other in ways that most people don't even notice until it's too late. And what Canada just did was rip that curtain wide open. They didn't just put on a show, they turned pop culture into a political weapon, and they did it with the kind of precision that leaves everyone asking, was that entertainment or a statement? See, America has been the heavyweight champion of cultural exports for decades. From Hollywood to hip hop, from rock and roll to reality TV, they've been shaping global tastes, global trends, and global thinking. But what happens when another player steps into the ring and proves they can use those same cultural symbols to deliver a political punch? That's exactly what Canada just did with Michael Jackson. They took a figure who has been woven into the very fabric of American identity and used him not just to perform, but to project power. And here's the genius. Nobody saw it as a threat in the moment, because it was wrapped in nostalgia, wrapped in rhythm, wrapped in a beat that crosses borders. But underneath all that glitter, the move was sending a message: loud and clear culture can be borrowed, remixed, and turned back toward its origin with new meaning, new ownership, and new influence. This is what makes it so dangerous. Military power you can measure, economic sanctions you can track, but cultural influence, that's invisible until it's already reshaped the way people think and feel. You can't put numbers on the pride a nation feels when they see someone else take their icons and make them shine again, but in a different flag's colors. You can't quantify the subtle shift in global perception when the rest of the world starts associating a cultural legend not just with the country that birthed them, but with the one that reintroduced them to the world. Think about the timing too. In a moment where the US is juggling political battles, economic tensions, and global challenges, Canada slips in a move that doesn't just entertain. It distracts, reframes, and in a way reclaims. They didn't come in swinging. They didn't need to. They let the king of pop moonwalk across a geopolitical fault line and leave everyone cheering. That's not coincidence. That's strategy. And it works because pop culture operates on emotion, not logic. You can argue about policies and borders all day long, but you can't argue with the way a song makes you feel. You can't argue with the rush of recognition when you see an icon come back to life. And when a country can control those emotions, they can steer the conversation without ever calling it politics. That's the kind of soft power that's harder to resist than any military might. This wasn't just Canada playing dress up with American history. It was a reminder to the US and the world that the cultural stage isn't owned, it's rented. And if you don't keep performing, someone else can take the spotlight. They can use your own music, your own moves, your own legends to write a new act in the play. And by the time you realize what's happening, the audience has already decided they like the new performance better. What's wild is how smooth it was. No confrontation, no speeches pointing fingers, just a stage, a song, and a performance that hit harder than 1,000 press releases. And that's what will keep this moment alive long after the lights went out. Because it didn't just entertain, it unsettled. It didn't just pay tribute, it redefined ownership. It didn't just borrow power. It proved that power could be transferred without a single vote, without a single treaty, without a single border crossing. And the ripple effect of a move like that is enormous. Other countries are watching, taking notes. They're seeing that you don't have to outspend or outgun a superpower to make an impact. You just have to outplay them on the stage that matters most to the people. The emotional stage, the one where politics hides in plain sight behind the bright lights and the music. Because when pop culture meets political muscle, you get more than a performance. You get a moment that rewires how people see power itself. And the moment you realize that, you understand that what happened here wasn't just a show, it was a shift.